History Talk with Smith Co. Hello and welcome back to History Talk with Smith Co. So today we're going to be talking about something called cultural nationalism. So basically the thing with Ireland, that's the thing we're talking about, is that in the 1890s and early 1900s there were many young nationalists that had grown disillusioned with politics. You know, it was always the time, around that time, it was always about, home rule, but sure, nothing was getting done. So, as home rulers were always bickering, and sure, the IRA, when secret society it had almost vanished. So, instead they'd become involved in different movements. These were concerned with Irish identity rather than actual Irish, nationalism as such, So they were, Irish. They weren't like, Britain was basically the same. But, they were saying, that, celebrating Irish stuff. So basically, they were concerned with Irish identity, Irish race, which, of course, is technically no such thing, but no such thing as any race really except one race, that's human race. In animals, by the way, there actually are other races, but just in humans there's only one race. So I guess in a way you could say, colloquially you could say Irish races, but then sure, every single group technically is a race then, but anyway, you also got Irish culture, and they try to answer questions such as, what makes a person actually Irish? What makes Irish people different from English people? And what entitles the Irish, to demand self-government? Well, I can answer you the last one, because, if you don't have self-government, then it's presumably being ruled by another state. And that means that state is, oppressing your democratic rights. So, and also it's bad. Unless the state is very similar. Unless, let's say, Europe, for example, you can't, not all European countries are the same. It's the same, if South America came into America and just said, okay, yeah, all the South American nations have become one, now you'll become one as well. Their countries are different, and their entire systems are different. So you can't really control a country and then expect them not to have that right of self-government. Anyway, that's just a little answer to question 3. The importance of the language was also concerned. You see, around 1900, nationalism was growing around Europe. Now, obviously, some countries have been doing that a bit wrong. Take Nazi Germany. Persecuting your own people tends not to be what is meant by nationalism. Or discriminating with people who aren't from your country. That's not the point of nationalism. Nationalism is you actually, you're not, when someone comes to your country, that's them coming to your country. They are forcing their beliefs onto you. You're forcing your beliefs onto them. You understand? They're the individual coming into the country. They're not the country coming onto the individual. That's what you are. So that's a little message to all those states that are really nationalistic, and they're against people who are coming into the country. It's but you see, those are people. You're a state. The state is the one that is the one with the power over culture. Do you understand? Sorry. Some states can understand that, and it's just kind of weird. Anyway, so, see, the thing is, national nations, which have been for a long time ruled by outsiders, are slightly different. You see, they're not celebrating, because in other countries that have their own independence, it's but you're not, there's no other factors really involved. It's the minority is, not you. You are in power. You are the one making decisions, all these sort of things. But then you have things like this. Poles, for example, want freedom from the Russians. The Czechs want freedom from the Austrians. And in all these sorts of cases, the people spoke very different languages in some cases from their rulers. That they claimed was what made them different and entitled to self-government, because they were a different country. You see, I guess Ireland has a bigger stake in it because it's like, well, you're a completely different island. Like, Scotland and Wales, independence-wise, I mean, like, you have every right to it, but, that's just the thing you have here, which is that you're different. It's not like those sort of olden times when you would have had this sort of thing where like a country would have gone, no, you're part of our country now. Like some European countries have done this. And England, in fact, has done it to Wales. They actually form in the country into their country. They no longer allow that country to exist as a political state. It's gone. It's formed into the country. And that becomes a little more complicated because then you have to read your lines and all those things. But at this point, it's like, well, you don't need this. You even shown this is a different country. We speak a different language. There's a different culture. All those other things. So then there's a little bit of a problem. You see, there's Anglicization beginning to happen within Ireland. Now, what this means is that Ireland's language, it's a language of Irish. Tá focail the cúpla focail is seach na bhéal inis, níl an focail, tá cúpla focail, this begins to change, and it's seen as a bit of a problem because, you see, in 1901, the census showed that only 14% of the population actually spoke Irish. Now, this number is falling every single year. This was actually caused by the Anglicization that was happening in the 19th century. This was the adoption of the English language and customs. Now, I should say this, in the 19th century, England were a little bit, they had a hand in this, to say the least. So a lot of the time, in the educational system in Ireland, you weren't allowed to learn these things. It's a method that people use to control the population, which is like stop you from, learning things that are related to your culture, and stop learning facts like, this is oppressive and wrong. So this begins to cause problems because, suddenly now, well, as the language disappears, so do many customs, stories, music, and traditions associated with the language. It's not just associated with the language, just the fact that the language, because it's an engineered type thing, as well as a sort of like what do you do situation, you have this problem of, how do you fight that? And, these were things that, that obviously made the Irish very different from the British. If they went, can you truly claim to be that much different? I would say yes, seeing as you're nearly a separate island, and but so I would say no. Well, you're entitled to your opinion, I guess. There are also some people in Britain and elsewhere who would have said no, but some people would have said yes. So anyway, the nationalists are dismayed that Ireland is being anglicised, so they want to stop it and restore a distinctive Irish culture and language. This led to the development of a thing called cultural nationalism. It produced three important organisations: the GAA, the Gaelic League, and Sinn Féin. All three had a very deep impact on Irish history and have survived into the 21st century and continue to have an effect on modern day Irish people. I would say though, one problem of course is that later on the language becomes a little bit of a complicated thing, because at the start it's like, okay, our educational system is controlled by another country, so we can't exactly just introduce it into education at a country level. So what do we do here? Okay, should we do this? But then it becomes a problem because later on obviously Irish becomes in the control of the state, and let's just say they didn't do a great job of it, and they're still kind of doing a bad job of it any day today. But hopefully, I know this is the end of the video, so hopefully you'll join us next time. We'll be looking at the Gaelic Association and possibly others. Athletic Association, sorry. So please do subscribe to the YouTube channel. It helps quite a lot, as it does viewing our other videos. So hopefully you will come back, or if you don't, you'll do other videos. Because if not, well, it'll be bye-bye for me forever. And I'll have to just say this. I hope you enjoy the rest of your existence. Bye-bye.